Defence against infectious disease, part 3. Ignace Semmelweis. So this is a picture I've managed to find of him. Ignace was around back in the 1800s, and he was particularly famous because he managed to find a way to stop pathogens being passed on maternity wards. Now, he came to start looking at this when he noticed that there was a discrepancy on a maternity ward that was led purely by midwives. The mortality rate was really low. Okay, so that means the death rate was really low. And on a ward that was led by doctors or had doctors in attendance, the mortality rate was considerably higher. So he started to look at what was going on. One of the things that he realised was that doctors were going out and dealing with patients that were dying or dead or had really severe illnesses. So that, they had pathogens. They had these things that make us ill that we covered in previous clips. So, and the midwives were purely on that ward, and they were dealing with healthy mothers that were going to give birth. So they weren't coming into contact with all these pathogens. And he started to think, well, what can I do to solve this problem? And he came up with what was a really simple, but at the time quite a radical idea. He came up with the idea of washing hands. So he got to the point where he actually insisted that doctors had to wash their hands before dealing with these mothers. Right? So they weren't allowed to touch them or do anything with them. If they had been out, or even if they hadn't, they had to wash their hands before they came into contact with the mothers. And what they found out was, what happened was that their death rate fell quite dramatically. So if we just have a quick look here, let's use the highlighter. If we actually look, this top line is the doctors, or it's referred to as the MDs. I'm just going to highlight it a little bit better. Alright. Okay, so you can see a clear trend. It's relatively high, it's at 8. Alright, so under there is an 8. And for the midwives, I'll just go over it. Make sure you can see it very clearly. It was much lower. Right. So if we look, hold on, not you back. If we look here, at the beginning we were at 8, and the midwives were just below 4. Alright, so the rate was was double, right? And we reach a peak here. Okay, we're just below 8, so we're at 16. So always roughly double at the beginning, and you can see constantly the whole way through that until we get to this point that it's higher. Now, what happened when Semmelweis basically said that they had to wash their hands and did this hand hygiene intervention is the death rate plummeted, okay, to the point where it matched the death rate of the midwives. So because of this, we learned about Semmelweis. He introduced this idea of washing hands, and the solution that he asked them to wash their hands with was a chloride of lime solution. That solution was pretty important because it was basically a disinfectant. It killed pathogens. And now in hospitals, if you've been there, there's at least pumps on the walls with the antibacterial gels in there. Doctors and nurses have to wash their hands before they come into contact with you and after they've been in contact with you, so that they're not spreading the pathogens around. Okay, so that you'll see that there's quite a few questions that can possibly be asked about this. This is one of the questions. I'll let you pause the clip now if you wish to. Okay, it gives you lots of information about what he did, what we've talked about. Okay, so if we move on, it says explain why the death rate fell. Well, it's a pretty simple answer actually, and it's only a 1-mark question, is this. The answer is quite simply that they were killing the bacteria, not the bacteria, sorry, the pathogens. Okay, they were getting rid of the pathogens, and that chloride of lime solution that's mentioned, okay, chloride of lime solution, here, chloride of lime solution, acted as a disinfectant. If you want to see any other questions, those of you that are in my classes, I'm going to be answering some in class, but there's also plenty of them available on AQA, and you can look back at past papers as well. Thank you.